Well, this week, a federal judge in Iowa handed a victory to animal rights groups, ruling what many refer to as an Ag-Gag law is unconstitutional. The 2012 Agricultural Production Facility Fraud Act had banned undercover investigations in commercial ag operations. AgriPulse reports legislation against a similar Ag-Gag law in North Carolina is ongoing. Well, to further discuss the issue, Roger McEowen with the Washburn University School of Law joins us now with further perspective on the matter. Roger, that was certainly big news that came down yesterday.
Yeah, it certainly was. Kind of caught me by surprise and burned up my phone yesterday afternoon and last night. This is a big issue, and of course a number of states, Kansas was one of the early states going back to 1990 with their law. I don't like the characterization of them being termed ag-gag. That they're not trying to gag speech, although this is what the court went off on and decided it was unconstitutional because it prohibited speech, protected speech under the First Amendment. What the laws are designed to do is to provide some type of protection for confined animal facilities from those types of people and groups whose express purpose is to eliminate that type of agriculture. And they do so by gaining access to confined animal facilities by deceit. And so the Iowa statute is layered specifically by putting such a high threshold that the state has to establish, the gates, if you will, that you have to pass through to be able to establish that someone has committed a misdemeanor act or an aggravated misdemeanor. You have to show that someone willfully deceived to get access to an ag animal facility or willfully intended to lie and committed a knowing lie on a job application to get a job at a facility and with the specific intent to commit an unauthorized act. And the court said that is protected free speech, even though it's got all of those requirements in the statute. The Idaho law, which is similar, earlier in the year was partly ruled unconstitutional, but was partly upheld by the circuit court in that case. Utah law has been deemed unconstitutional. There's a present challenge that was just filed about 3 weeks ago on the Kansas law. And so we see this in North Carolina also. We see this cascading in different states. I think the Iowa provision, that case will go on to the 8th Circuit. So this is another one of these issues we were talking, you asked me at the top of the hour what to expect in 2019. We're going to see more developments on this issue in 2019 and what the states can do, if anything, to try to protect confinement animal facilities from people that are trying to gain access by improper means.
To me, it sounds like it's also a threat just to business owners themselves as far as not having the opportunity to, I guess, find retribution if somebody does lie for a job application.
Yeah, that's another thing that the states have to think through. What are the ramifications of this, of these types of opinions that come down? Now, the normal way that one would proceed if they think there's some type of criminal activity that is being engaged in or an appropriate activity that might be criminal activity inside an animal facility is to get a subpoena, take it to a judge and have a judge issue a search warrant so that they can inspect the premises. It is private property. So it really raises the issue as to what you can do in a constitutional republic in these types of situations to protect your private property from those people that are acting in a dishonest fashion. States are struggling with that.
And part of the issue also comes back to whenever some of these investigations have taken place, they've held on to the information for months, if not years on end, and then release it out of the blue. It's not an immediate turnaround as far as they see abuse take place.
No, and that is another problem that has spurred legislation in a number of these states. It is a concern in the livestock production states. Of course, Iowa is number one in pork production as well as in broiler production. So you've got a lot of confinement facilities, and it's a huge economic issue for the state of Iowa. And that's why the legislature stepped in a few years ago.
What's your suggestion for employers?
Boy, based on this decision, it's tough because I thought that the law had enough constraints in it such that it wouldn't be deemed to be a violation of free speech rights. The judge said otherwise, and so the legislature, if the case is upheld on appeal, is going to have to reconsider the approach in these situations as to how you deal with the groups that aren't necessarily favorably disposed to confinement agricultural livestock production.
And you do expect an appeal on all of these?
I do. Yeah.
All right. Well, Roger, thank you very much for sharing your insight. As always, we certainly appreciate it. Again, talking with Roger McEowen. He's with the Washburn University School of Law, joining us here on set today. And of course, we'll continue following that issue.